Hello and welcome to Hot Indonesia, where everything happens at once. I'm Dalton Tanonaka in Jakarta. Here is this week's HI Hotlist on the brink, why Hong Kong will never be the same and what that means to the world. We talk with journalist Lorraine Hahn in Hong Kong. Fighting the fight, assessing just where we are in beating COVID-19. Are we winning? And bridging the gap, why going to school every morning is risky business for these schoolgirls. Now, here are my co-hosts each and every week. Sandrina Malakiano, former TV news anchor, now a political marketing consultant from her home in South Tangerang, and Sandiaga Uno, business executive and former vice governor of Jakarta from his home in South Jakarta. Here is hot topic number one, on the brink. Hong Kong is at the crossroads. Some say past the point of no return. Ever since Great Britain returned its former colony to China in 1997, pro-democracy advocates feared the erosion of a one country, two systems promise. A recent national security law and other actions seen as pro-China have resulted in sometimes violent street protests on both sides of the harbor. That, along with the COVID-19 pandemic, have dealt a double punch to the global financial hub. Lorraine Hahn is a former CNN and CNBC news anchor, as well as an Indonesia channel host. She joins us now from Hong Kong. Lorraine, first to the political conflict. You know, it kind of went quiet because of the virus, but is flaring up again. Give us perspective. How widespread are the protests in terms of location and public sentiment?
Well, hi, Dalton. Nice to see you. Listen, since the law was enacted, the new security law was enacted on June the 30th, our streets have been very peaceful. The protests so far, and they're sporadic, and there was one yesterday, for example, are usually confined to shopping malls now. And they probably have about maybe 20, 30 so-called protesters at these malls holding up banners and singing the liberation song of Hong Kong, but nothing like what we saw a few months back.
And I guess that's a result of the security law as well as the pandemic. Now, Lorraine, you know, you and I covered the handover to China on July 1st, 1997. Some say it went downhill from there. I think it's fair to say that Hong Kong will never be as free as it was under British rule. Or does it matter?
Well, it depends who you talk to, honestly. I mean, if you look at it, the sympathizers would say, we're fed up. We had 1 year of violent protests. A lot of people that I knew, actually in the beginning, in 2019, in June 2019, actually supported the crowds, whether they're in the hundreds of thousands or the millions, walking the streets of Hong Kong peacefully. But that all blew up in our face. And suddenly you get these thugs coming around, smashing things, and people say, whoa, we can't even walk on the streets without being possibly attacked. We can't even go to the supermarket for fear that there might be somebody throwing bricks from a overhead walkway. You know, that sort of suddenly disrupted lives in Hong Kong. And what the sympathizers would tell you is that we want normalcy back. We're just fed up. All the protests that have happened over the year, nothing has come about. In fact, what has come about is this national security bill, which actually LegCo, which is our legislative council, was supposed to pass by itself, you know, some years back, but never got to it. So, you know, what is left for the Hong Kong people? So these are from the sympathizers, obviously. From the other side of the fence, people are saying, okay, at least we got the world to watch Hong Kong. We got the world to see what China is doing to Hong Kong and its so-called authoritarian rule. So, I mean, you know, again, it really depends where you stand on it.
Yeah, and sympathizers, you mean the ones who are pro-China, basically, right? Sympathetic to the Chinese government.
Or maybe the elites in Hong Kong, you know,
Okay.
they want to conduct business.
Who have a vested interest in, yeah, I got it. Okay, Sandy, first question to Lorraine.
Well, thank you, Lorraine, for joining us. For over 30 years, throughout my professional and then entrepreneurial careers, we visit Hong Kong mainly maybe 3 to 4 times a year for fundraising, for conferences, and for anything that relates to financials, and how we could expand our business. My question is, would any of that change under the new circumstances and the track that we're going? Secondly, my wife would always want to go with me to Hong Kong because of the shopping. And you mentioned shopping malls are now is a target of regular show of these banners and so on. Would shopping be somewhat disrupted by this new circumstances?
Right. Thank you very much for your questions. Let me answer the more important one, which is the latter question. And that is, shopping is fantastic. We've got sales that are up like 80% to 90% off now. And, to be very honest with you, the protesters in Hong Kong, the ones right now in the shopping malls, all they do is stand there and sing, basically. They're not about, they're not holding axes or wielding batons or anything. No, they're not. They're peaceful, but they want to have their voice heard. So on that note, we still go shopping, but obviously when they're there, which is usually for maybe half an hour or something, we have a tea break. So that's the second question answered. As far as the first question goes, I really don't think there will be an issue in Hong Kong, and I would like to believe that there will be no issue in terms of events and so on. The reason why we right at the moment events and big conferences like our book fair, which was supposed to happen in a week, has been cancelled is because not of the security bill, but because of COVID. So you got to understand that we are now facing a dual battle here.
Yeah, okay, Lorraine, I understand non-Hong Kongers are allowed into Hong Kong, but you have to quarantine for 14 days, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and besides the visitors like Sandy's wife, there are 180,000 Indonesians, as we know, working in Hong Kong, most of them domestic workers, some professionals, so they are concerned, they're our concern as well. Sandrina, question for Lorraine?
Yeah, Lorraine, it's good to see you. Unlike Sandy, who goes there for business trips, I actually go to Hong Kong quite often because of our children, because it has become one of their favorite destinations, namely the Hong Kong Disneyland. But it's quite scary now if seeing the picture that you have given us with the current situation in Hong Kong, the dual fight that the country is facing. But aside from that, with this new national security law, I would like to know your opinion. How would you see this impact the world of economy and business in Hong Kong? Because Hong Kong, as we know, has grown to be one of the most important economic and business hub in the world.
At the moment, I don't think a lot of people are that worried right now. And again, I can't harp on the fact that we don't know a lot of things still, and we're still waiting.
Lorraine, we got to go, but one last quick question. I want to ask you the COVID thing you mentioned. Yeah, you're about to be hit, I understand, or in the middle of a third wave of COVID-19. What happened? You guys locked down pretty good, but why a third wave all of a sudden?
Yeah, great question. That's what I'm asking. I mean, we had like a couple of months of zero cases, and all of a sudden, in the last couple of weeks, it just bounced up. What they're saying now is that they think the viruses came from seamen, people from the sea crew, and pilots.
Thank you for clearing that one up.
Particular two type groups of people: the people from the sea and
sailors,
air. Yeah, they were not tested. And they could have passed it on to taxi drivers and then, into the community. Also, the domestic helpers, whether they're from the Philippines or Indonesia, unfortunately, they were also not tested initially. So they've come in and they might have spread it to their employers and so on and so forth.
All right. Hey, Lorraine, please take care of yourself and your loved ones. Lorraine Hahn in Hong Kong, thank you very much. Okay, Hot Indo will continue shortly. Fighting the fight, just where Indonesia is in the global effort against COVID-19. You're watching Hot Indonesia with Sandrina, Sandy, and me. Here's hot topic number 2, fighting the fight. Indonesia recently passed China in the number of COVID-19 cases. China, where the outbreak originated. The highest single-day death total of 139 came on Wednesday. The curve is not flattening. Jakarta's governor says it's not just the government's fight.
Let's overcome this challenge. And we need to remind everyone that this is not only the job of the government. This is also a moral obligation, a moral responsibility for everyone. And
Governor Baswedan also extended capital city restrictions to the end of this month. Sandrina, your assessment 5 months after the first official case here.
We keep reaching new record numbers, not only globally as announced by the WHO, but also nationally. It's not decreasing. Day after day, you see that the graphic is still going up. And as you know, I was in Bali after 5 months being cooped up in Jakarta. Finally, I got the chance to fly back home to Bali. It's interesting to see that when you are in like formal places, like institutionals, like the airport, for example, the protocols are being carried out so well. Social distancing, and it's also very empty because people are avoiding traveling right now. But also in the aircraft, everybody wearing like double layer masks and also the face protectors. But the minute you step out of the airport, then everybody just changed. They take off their mask and then they take off the face protectors and then they mingle. I don't understand this. What is actually happening? Is it because they've been in this restriction for too long, or it's just now they believe that maybe other people can catch it but not me? It's a bias in seeing things. I honestly don't understand, but I do believe no matter what, we are responsible of not only our own health but other people's too.
So with the extended restrictions in Jakarta, talking about what the governor said in Jakarta, movie theaters now for one have to postpone their reopening, not a big deal. But as you said, Sandrina, malls and restaurants are getting busier, streets are building up in traffic again. Sandy, yes, your evaluation at this point.
Well, I was in South Jakarta in one of the typically busy Saturday, and I saw every single food outlets is busy. And it's alarming situations because we keep on seeing an increasing numbers. And I think we are now is at a very, very strategic juncture. We need to make sure that the COVID cases number is and the curve being flattened. The government gets it. That's why the government changed the team now. They put a new team in place whereby now the health and economic matters are being handled by the same task force. And I think Eric Thohir, Minister for State-Owned Enterprises, is now at the helm. So we, comparative to other big populations countries, we're still quite low. But if you look at the number of cases increasing, we need to make sure that the soundbite that the Governor Anis has said, that it's not just the program by the government, but also how the people are adopting at least the face mask, wash your hands, and social distancing. And if you don't really have to go out, stay at home.
Yeah, if we just did those two things, from all I've read and seen, if we just wear masks and socially distance, we could beat this problem faster. But that is the problem, because human nature, as Sandrina pointed out in previous programs, is to gather, especially in the Indonesian culture. It's kind of logic versus emotion and wanting to be with people. That's hard to beat. Now, if we can't stop emotion or people from gathering together, if we can't force people to wear masks because there's no national order, although some provinces are ordering them or face fines, then what?
I think, Dalton, I held a rapid test only yesterday, whereby we found out of the 270, 80 was reactive, and then we moved them to swab tests, whether 40% of that 80 that was reactive is actually positive. So the number of cases is increasing. In fact, in South Jakarta, that was supposed to be the green zone. So, we need to take this seriously. And there's new narratives now where they were saying, oh, there is herd immunity and the virus is weakening. It spreads faster, but it doesn't kill anymore. So, hey guys, let's be relaxed. So I've just lost another couple of friends, close friends, due to COVID-19. This should not be taken lightly. We need to be really serious and strategic about this.
Yeah, Sandrina, last thought on this?
Yeah, I would like to add to what Sandy has said about testing. Actually, there was a friend's relative who had symptoms. He was feverish, he was shivering, and he had a massive headache. So he was taken to the hospital, COVID-19 hospital in Denpasar. But surprisingly enough, because he also had a tooth problem, then they just said that, oh, this is because of your tooth problem. So they insisted on having a swab test. He was denied, and he was sent to another clinic away from that hospital to go and have his tooth checked. Fortunately, it was because of his tooth infection that he had the fever. But who would have known? I mean, why aren't people allowed to have swab tests if they feel that they need and they have the symptoms? So such conditions in hospitals in Indonesia should also be improved, especially for people who are willing to pay. Maybe they're thinking about the budget, the less budget they have to spend to do testing on people. Maybe that's another issue. I don't know. But we do have to improve everything here, not only the hospitals, the increase of testing, and also remind people again and again. Do not take it lightly, as Sandy said. Wear your mask.
Yes, start with the basics. A lot of work still ahead. Okay, more Hot Indo is ahead as well. Bridging the gap. Why should these students risk their lives every morning to go to school? You're watching Hot Indonesia from Jakarta. Here's hot topic number 3, bridging the gap. Now watch this video taken in East Seram in Maluku. These 4 girls waited 3 hours for the river to slow down before trying to cross. One nearly falls and could have been swept away by the current. These 8th graders have no other route to get to school with no roads from their village. Now usually, guys, the river is not this high, but it is the rainy season in that area. The water level was higher than normal. They are obviously not doing online classes, maybe no internet there, but if I was their parent and if you were their parents, I would tell them, come home. If you can't cross, it's too dangerous, right?
I agree. Honestly, Dalton students in so many parts in Indonesia still have to risk their lives to get to their schools. Some, I'm sure you've seen it also, some have to cross a tightrope. And it's not far from Jakarta, even. It's in Banten, a tightrope 30 feet high above the river. And also students who have to walk for hours and hours. They have to leave their houses 3-4 hours before school begins.
Okay, so what do we do?
It's a matter of infrastructure. It's not being developed evenly throughout the nation. And I don't know, this shouldn't happen now because everybody has the right to receive proper education. It's one of the basic rights of the Indonesian people. But with no infrastructure, especially in remote areas in Indonesia, then this is still going to happen.
Yeah, Sandy, as a former government official, if you saw this kind of thing on social media or on the news, it's kind of embarrassing for your region. Wouldn't you immediately put resources there?
We had the same experience when I was at the government in Jakarta, and we saw this picture, South Jakarta. This is like 35 minutes from my place. on the it's one of the rivers. There's a crossing, and the bridge was very, very old and rusty, and it was very dangerous. So we knew that the cycle of the government budget will take a year. So we said that, okay, this is the time for public-private people partnership. So together with business side as well as with the people and the communities, we're able to build it very fast because we don't want to risk. Nobody should risk their lives to go to school. And you know, not for those kids, not for even for our kids. We should really put safety first. So I am stressing, we tend to focus on the big bridges, the very glossy on a picture side infrastructures, and you know, all the ceremonies. But the little infrastructures, like the ones that these kids would need to travel to school, should be the one that we are focusing. Because the big bridges, the big toll roads, the power plant, private sectors can do it. But the government should focus on all these little things that could mean life and death for these kids. And nobody, I guess, nobody again should be undermined in terms of how they are risking their lives to go to school. So it's really disheartening to see this.
Sure, yeah. Education, of course, must be the government's priority, but along with the basic tools and infrastructure.
That's correct.
To get there. Okay, it is feedback time now, and we want to hear from you, good or bad. We mean it. More comments now on the issue of skin whitening products. Farhan posted this on the Indonesia Channel YouTube page. For me, beautiful and handsome is when people are confident with their skin color. We agree. Also on YouTube, Jihad said this: "Thank God you let me discover this channel. And we are thankful to have you as a viewer." Here's how to contact us with your feedback. Email at hotindo@theindonesiachannel.com or comment through our Hot Indonesia or Indonesia Channel Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube pages. Final words, Sandrina.
Yes, we should all continue to prevent further COVID-19 outbreaks. Steer clear of the 3 C's. First, confined and closed spaces. Second, crowded places. 3, the third one is close contact settings like close range conversations. Then we're doing our part.
Okay, final word, Sandy.
Congratulations, Eric Thohir, to get the job of the new head of the task force for COVID-19. Now get to work, bro. We really need for you to execute. We're rallying behind you. So let's get to work and let's defeat this COVID-19 together.
And my final words, you know, a good friend's mom just passed away from COVID-19. She was elderly and had other medical problems, but if not for this virus, she would have had more days on this earth with her loved ones. So for those conspiracy theorists and those who say the pandemic is a hoax and question the health threat, the virus kills, the threat is real. And that's Hot Indonesia for this week. For Sandrina Malakiano and Santiago Uno, I'm Dalton Tanonaka. Thank you for watching, and please join us again next time.